Alright, so over the weekend, this Jeep had a trouble code show up. Check engine light came on. It's not on now, so we're going to read it and see what it says and try to diagnose it. So I've got the scanner hooked up here. Car's running. It's fully warmed up right now, and I'll show you why later. But you can see here, exclamation point, that there is a trouble code. So we're going to go in here, read the code, and see what it says. Alright, so low voltage, O2 sensor, bank 2 sensor 2. Alright, so let's go take a look at the data from those O2 sensors. You really should have your car fully warmed up for this. It needs to be in the lean condition, so fully warmed up, not rich. Alright, so we're going to view data. Whoops, not complete. Escape. Do custom data. Alright, so I'm going to go down through here and select the O2 sensors. Alright, so there's bank 1 sensor 1. So we'll select that one. Bank 1 sensor 2. Bank 2 sensor 1. And bank 2 sensor 2. Alright, so there's live data from those sensors. So oxygen sensors are supposed to cycle once a second to make adjustments to the amount of oxygen in the exhaust. The bank 1 on this vehicle is on the passenger side, bank 2 is on the driver's side. So sensor 1 is before the catalytic converter and sensor 2 is after the catalytic converter. So we're going to see slightly different readings between the pre-cat and the post-cat oxygen sensors. So we'll go down here and take a look first at bank 2 sensor 2, which is where we saw that code. And we're not seeing a lot of variation here. As you can see in the upper right corner, it's staying right at 0.705 volts. Every once in a while there's a very small peak up to 0.725, but not a whole lot. So we will take a look at the other side. We'll go to bank 1 sensor 2, just see what it's doing. So there's a little more variation on this side. Looks like it might be cyclical, and then it levels out 0.705. So those look to me like they're pretty much the same, like they're doing the same thing. And then we're going to take a look at the pre-cat oxygen sensors, because you'll be able to really see how they cycle. In fact, you can see that a little bit on this screen. You can see the numbers there for sensor 1 oxygen sensors. They're going from about 0.65 down to about 0.1. So let's take a look at those. Yeah, so it's real clear. These are cycling probably about 1 per second, about 1 hertz. We'll take a look at bank 2 sensor 1, see if it's doing the same thing. Yep. Basically it's doing the same thing. So that's what those are supposed to be doing. Here's bank 2 sensor 2. This is the one that had a problem, that set the check engine light. We're getting kind of erratic data here. I wouldn't say it's cyclical. It's certainly not once a second. Sort of strange data. Let's take a look at bank 1 sensor 2, see what it's doing. It's very consistent, sitting at about 0.68 0.67, somewhere in there. Little peaks, but you can see the scale on the left, it's only going between 0.665 and 0.685 volts, so that's very consistent. Bank 2, sensor 2. Looks like right now it's doing the same thing. There we go, we've got a weird dip right there. Real low dip. Now we're staying real low. You can see in the upper right corner it's averaging about 0.15 volts. Now we're going up a little bit. So I would say that this oxygen sensor is probably bad. It might be what they call a lazy oxygen sensor. When I drive it, it does seem to stay up around 0.6. But you can see here that it's got some pretty low dips in it, especially for being fully warmed up. So I think that oxygen sensor is bad. On this vehicle, bank 2 is on the driver's side. On this, this is a 07 Jeep Wrangler with a 3.8 liter. And it the banks for the oxygen sensors line up with the number 1 and number 2 cylinders. So the number 1 spark plug is on the passenger side, so bank 1 for the oxygen sensors is on the passenger side. Spark plug number 2 is on the driver's side, so bank 2 for the oxygen sensors is on the driver's side. Just a little more data. Seems kind of strange. It's in this large sweep, it seems like, so it goes way down, you know, about 0.1 all the way back up to 0.6. Right now we're sitting at 0.6. It's pretty stable right now. But we did see just a moment ago that it did drop all the way down to 0.1. We'll just check once again to see what bank 1's sensor looks like here. Bank 1, sensor 2. Oops. Looks just about the same, sitting at 0.625 right now. And there it dropped down to 0.2. So it's cycling also right now. You can It's hard to say if that's bad or not. The actual trouble code from the vehicle says low voltage. You can see that right there where there was a drop down to 0.075 volts. So it's possible that it was reading too low of a voltage from that sensor. I would say that this sensor is lazy. It's obviously not completely failed, but it's bad enough that the computer thought that it may have a problem, so it set the check engine light. Now you can see that there's a pretty large difference between sensor 1 and sensor 2. I'm sorry, sensor 2 on both banks. One of them sitting at 0.2, the other one sitting at 0.6. These are the sensor 1 graphs. Very, very obvious sweeps here. But the sensor 2s are not as obvious. It goes down and it goes down and it goes down, and then it may come back up. But it's certainly not that 1 hertz cyclical pattern that we saw out of the number 1 sensors. Okay, now I have replaced both of the sensor 2s, both on bank 1 and bank 2. The Jeep is fully warmed up right now. And the O2 sensors are reading a very constant voltage this time. So you can see that the sensor 1s up here and down here are both cycling about once a second, exactly what you would expect. And the sensor 2s are staying very, very constant. One of them is about 0.75, the other one's about 0.7, just a little over 0.7. If we look at the graphs here for those, very, very constant. Just sits right there flat at just a little over 0.7. This one's the same way.